In my opinion, there's no touristy places, just bad, unprepared travelers. And in a city, especially like this, you really owe it to yourself to be prepared to create magical moments to yourself so you can really appreciate groundbreaking art and the incredible beauty of a city that's been keeping travelers coming for centuries.
Florence is Italy's greatest village because it blends big city culture with small town charm, offering Renaissance masterpieces in 4K around every corner, yet staying friendly, intimate, and warmly approachable. It's also a place that'll crush your soul if you don't do it right. With the whole city being a living, breathing museum, where do you even start, and which places are worth the hype? The good news is that Florence is small and packed tight. Sure, everyone hits the David, the Duomo, and the Uffizi, but there's more beneath the surface. Today, we're breaking down the real hits, no fluff, just what's worth your time, the meaningful sites, and how to avoid leaving here thinking, I guess I just didn't get it.
I'm Angel Castellanos for the tour guide, and today we're running down all the top things you need to see right here in Italy's greatest village, Florence.
Start where Florence began, the epicenter. You've got the Duomo, a red-tiled monster that took 140 years to finish. An architectural moonshot from the 15th century, Filippo Brunelleschi didn't just build a dome. He cracked a code that had been lost for centuries. He built the first self-supporting dome since ancient Rome. Climb if you want the view, but brace yourself.
So basically, I'm in between the two domes. The genius of Brunelleschi is that instead of building one big dome, he built two and structured them to be working with each other, because above you see the flying buttresses, things that you would never see from the outside.
It's 463 claustrophobic steps and no elevator, but the view is definitely worth it. Towering next to the Duomo is Giotto's Bell Tower, offering killer views with fewer tourists. Proof that even before the Renaissance officially began, Florence was already thinking bigger. The marble facade is textbook Florentine, white, pink, and green stone stacked like gelato. It's 414 steps to the top and worth every one.
Andiamo.
Across from it, the Baptistry, older than the cathedral itself, built over Roman ruins with doors so famous, Michelangelo called them the gates of paradise. They're not just doors, they're the spark that lit the Renaissance. If you want to dig deeper, head to the Opera del Duomo Museum. It's where they keep the soul of the cathedral. The original Gates of Paradise doors are here. The replicas are outside on the Baptistry. There's a moving Michelangelo Pietà, the one he actually carved for his own tomb. Donatello's Penitent Magdalene is raw, broken, and human. If the Duomo is the icon, this is the story behind it. Orsanmichele looks like a stone block with a steeple, but walk around it and this thing is alive. It started as a grain market and then turned into a church. Now it's an open-air showdown of Renaissance heavyweights. Donatello's St. George is coiled like he's ready to swing. It's one of the first sculptures to show real tension and emotion. A young warrior frozen mid-moment, not just standing around looking holy. Then you have Nanni de Banco's Four Crowned Martyrs, which are four stonecutters deep in conversation, carved like he knew them personally before they were executed for their beliefs. It's the first group sculpture of the Renaissance to show real human interaction. Piazza della Repubblica sits on Florence's original Roman Forum.
In the late 19th century, the capital of the newly founded Italy was moved to Florence. So Florence had to be spruced up a bit. The David was moved indoors to the Accademia, and lots of new piazzas and public works started to pop up. This is Piazza della Repubblica, honoring the newly founded republic.
It was once the city's crossroads, then the Jewish ghetto, now a polished reminder of when Florence briefly became Italy's capital. The cafes have history, the arch has ego, and the Negronis still hit like it was invented yesterday. Then take a stroll to Piazza della Signoria, Florence's original stage for power politics. This is where politicians were stabbed, artists unveiled masterpieces, and people were burnt alive for heresy. Tucked in the corner is La Loggia dei Lanzi, an open-air stage for stone-cold drama. Cellini's Perseus holds Medusa's severed head like a mic drop to tyranny, while Giambologna's Rape of the Sabines twists upward in a frozen spiral of violence and beauty. Dominating the piazza is Palazzo Vecchio, Florence's city hall / fortress. Go inside if you've got time, if not, just gawk at the fake David out front. This is the beating heart of the Florentine Republic, where justice was loud and traitors like the Pazzi conspirators were strung up from the windows as a warning. And then there's the Ponte Vecchio, the oldest bridge in Florence, now lined with overpriced gold shops and way too many tourists. But at sunset, it is magic.
Ponte Vecchio is Florence's most ancient and famous bridge. It was famously not destroyed and preserved during World War II. And what you see now are a bunch of different gold shops and silver shops. And these didn't exist until the Medici moved in. Before then, there were a bunch of farmers and butchers. The Medici came in to spruce up this place. They broke everyone's table, and that's where the word bankrupt comes from, banca rota. And right above us is the secret VIP walkway of the Medici, who couldn't be bothered to walk amongst the people like us.
Above it, you can spy a secret walkway of the Medici called the Vasari Corridor that connected the Uffizi to the palace on the other side of the river. More on how you can access that VIP walkway when we get to the Uffizi. We built the perfect Florence itinerary from the Duomo to the David without wasting your time or your legs. Want more guides like this? Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe so we can keep eating our way across Europe and bringing you this great content. There are lots of museums, and here's what's actually worth it.
One of the top priorities when you visit Florence is to visit the Uffizi Gallery. Without a doubt, it's the most important art gallery in all of Italy. In here, you're going to see more heavy hitters than the 1927 Yankees. You're going to go through the story of art history and see Giotto, Botticelli, Raphael, and Da Vinci. But the key is to definitely plan ahead and not just show up and randomly hope for a ticket, but pre-purchase your ticket or your tour well ahead of time.
The Medici didn't just hoard power, they hoarded beauty, and this is where they stashed it. Giotto broke the rules when no one else had the guts. He gave weight to saints, shadows to bodies, and emotion to faces that used to look like paper dolls. Leonardo painted angels like he'd actually seen one. His brushwork on the Annunciation feels otherworldly. And in the Baptism of Christ, he outshined his teacher so completely, Verrocchio walked away from painting for good. Raphael watched everyone else reinvent the wheel, then became the darling of the Renaissance, bringing calm to the storm with clear lines, perfect light, and more humanity in one face than a dozen frescoes. Botticelli's Birth of Venus wasn't painted to hang in a gift shop. It was a declaration that the human form and human thought mattered again. After years of being off limits, the Vasari Corridor is finally open again. It's the most exclusive walk in Florence, above the plebeians in the footsteps of Medici power. Mussolini once brought Hitler here, and a Nazi general was so taken with the view, he spared the Ponte Vecchio. You want inside? Don't worry, we got you. This is a hidden passage of the Medici that is a shortcut from the Uffizi to the Pitti Palace.
Since this is definitely one of the top things to see here in Florence, you definitely want to plan ahead and book your ticket and tour well ahead of time. I'm with Chiara. She's sorted my ticket out, and that's the nice thing about having a guide like her. If you're on one of our small group tours, you're going to actually enter right here, completely different from the rest of the crowd. In 1501, Michelangelo took a piece of marble that nobody wanted, and in 3 years, he shocked the world with the greatest statue ever carved out of marble. Basically, the Renaissance version of a comeback story. You'll think you've seen it in pictures until you're staring up at the greatest sculpture in Italy, all 17 feet of it. Now, this just isn't a statue or just a regular Renaissance sculpture, because there were plenty of those and they were small. This is 17 feet tall, the personification of youth. And this is man made in God's image, and not just any Bible story, but someone so faithful that he would be confident that he would win against all odds.
The rest of the museum is worth a lap, especially the slaves by Michelangelo, but David is the main event. Michelangelo's David moved here in 1873 after spending centuries in open air. They brought him inside to save him, and once you see him up close, you'll understand why. The Bargello is one of those rare places in Florence where you can actually breathe and hear your own thoughts. The Bargello is housed in a 13th century palace that once held prisoners, not masterpieces. It's now home to Donatello, Michelangelo, and a quiet kind of intensity you won't find in bigger museums. It's where sculpture gets raw. Donatello's David is lean, strange, almost erotic. A kid smirking with a hat and boots, standing on a severed head. This is one of the best kept secrets in Florence. Get there early for the light and the quiet. This place isn't loud like the Uffizi. It's also the best 10 euros you will spend in the city. San Marco isn't flashy, and that's the point. It was a monastery and still feels like one. Quiet, stark, stripped down to what actually matters. Fra Angelico lived and painted here, and this guy was so devout, he couldn't paint a crucifix without crying. And you feel that. Each cell has its own fresco, not to impress, but to be humble. It's spiritual, but hits you in the gut. Then there's Savonarola, a firebrand preacher, Florence's brief answer to theocracy. He lived here too, before he went full extremist, burned down books, banned pleasure, and got himself executed in the same square where he once held power. Florence is a holy city in the dramatic and operatic sense. Santa Maria Novella, San Lorenzo, and Santa Croce are where religion meets politics, where families showed off their wealth, and where some of the city's greatest stories are still carved into stone.
If you're gonna see one other church other than the Duomo, it definitely has to be Santa Croce, which is the largest Franciscan church in the world. Construction started in 1294, and it is a temple to Italian greatness. And let me show you why once we get inside.
Santa Croce is where Florence buries its legends. Michelangelo, Galileo, Machiavelli, dead but still flexing in what is more like a hall of fame in marble. Built in the 13th century by Arnolfo di Cambio, the same guy who kicked off the Duomo, it's the biggest Franciscan church on earth, built by monks who took a vow of poverty. Only in Florence could humility look so grand. Giotto painted the walls. Before the Renaissance got so loud and rich, it started here in humility and fresco.
So some people might refer to this as Dante's tomb, but that is not in fact correct. This is a memorial to Dante. Dante actually died in Ravenna, and this is a memorial to the Italian poet who absolutely changed the world through Italian language.
Want that epic postcard view? Then head to Piazzale Michelangelo. Think sunset, skyline, and way too many people taking selfies. Walk 10 more minutes uphill and you have San Miniato al Monte. Fewer people, but more soul. 11th century architecture, Gregorian chants, and the kind of view you earn. Cross the river into Oltrarno, where Florence chills out. You can wander Piazza Santo Spirito, the area beloved by locals. It's raw, lived in, and beautifully unpolished. This is the side of the river where our Florence food tour happens. Real food, real meat, no Instagram spots. If you came here just for the art, that's fine. But if you leave without eating in Oltrarno, you didn't get the full story. To really understand Florence, you have to leave it. Florence is the capital of Tuscany, and the whole iconic region is where sunlight, dirt, and history make magic in a bottle. Think postcard vineyards, stone kitchens, delicious food, and wine that tastes like the land it came from. We'll drive, you breathe, eat, drink, and remember what it means to slow down.
Florence is jam-packed with incredible sights, and if you plan well, you can take advantage of your time and see them all.
Florence isn't just a city. It's a time machine, a crowded, chaotic, beautiful mess of genius and ego. You don't need to see everything, but what you do see, let it hit you. Let it overwhelm you. That's how Florence was built to be experienced.
I'm Angel Castellanos for the tour guide. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and ring that bell to find our next video. Happy travels.